Ben Gomes-Casseres. Usually when people talk about a remix, they're talking about music. But your book, Remix Strategy, talks about M&A and corporations. Why is that? Can you explain that?
Sure, I'm glad to do. Greg, I think we are in the middle now, after the Great Recession, of the Great Remix. By that I mean that companies are remixing their assets with assets of other companies to create new value. It's like playing cards. What you have in your hand is a combination of assets, and if your combination is better than somebody else's combination, you can get competitive advantage from that. So remix is the process of taking assets from outside your company, capabilities, and mixing them and combining them with your own.
And you have 3 laws in your book, and the first one essentially says that when 2 companies get together, you got to have more value. So 1 + 1 = 3. But my question to you is, how do you recognize that in advance? It's not always easy to see.
Absolutely. Not only easy to see and not easy to actually get it done. So the first law says that there has to be the potential to get that kind of value. Look at InBev and Miller right now. Do we know that they're going to be able to create value by coming together? It's like 2 sumo wrestlings trying to hug each other. And do we have advantages of scale? Do we have advantages of cost savings? Do we have even marketing advantages? And those are the things that you have to sort of plan out and see whether they're there. Once you know that, then you can get into the details of how you put it together and how you split the value.
Now, I know it depends on the size of the companies getting into the merger, but how do you decide who runs the show? Who's going to be the best person to maximize the value? And that kind of gets to the heart of your second rule.
Absolutely. The second rule says that you have to design this combination and manage it in such a way to create that value that you potentially saw in the first rule. And there the key is whoever is the best situated to actually exploit those synergies. Now, in a case of a merger or an acquisition, there is one acquirer, and then usually the acquirer is the one that runs the show. In my book, I talk about different kinds of combinations too that are short of merger. So you have, for example, alliances or joint ventures, where in fact both parties remain involved. Take IBM and Apple, for example. In their alliance around mobile computing, they have to share ownership, they have to share equity, they have to share decision rights. And that is in fact many more challenging perhaps than merger, although all of them do struggle with this idea of how do we put it together and who runs it.
And the third law is about keeping everyone motivated. You know, how do you keep people motivated once you get all these new employees from another company, they're mixing with you, and you want to protect your territory? So how do you keep everyone on the same page?
Right. Well, I mean, I think what you just said, you have to protect your territory, is probably one of the causes of failure. So if you're going to produce a combination, 1 and 1 is 3 is the value you want out of it, but in fact it has to act as if 1 and 1 is 1. And that does mean that the parties, even though they may be still separate, like IBM and Apple, should work together. So take, for example, Renault and Nissan. That's a very long-standing joint venture. We can see what has come from it. And they have very explicit methods to try to figure out how to gain the best from each side and how to create decision structures that keeps both sides involved and with a stake in the outcome.
And it's all about remixing. Thanks a lot for coming on and talking about it.
Thank you very much, Greg. My pleasure.
And thank you for watching The Street.